Hello. Hi. You may start the session.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone who are with us today. Let me begin by saying thank you to all of you for adjusting your busy schedules to join us in this prestige forum held for the second year, the Malaysian Urban Forum 2020. I'm particularly excited about this networking session with the topic towards National Urban Big Data Analytics for Effective Urban Management. And this program or this networking session is organized by KPKT and PLANMalaysia together with our partners, proudly presenting Perbadan Putrajaya and Cisco System Malaysia. A little bit briefing from my side now. We are all talking about big data analytics. We have smart cities coming in. We have sustainable development goals to be achieved. And behind all this, the key thing, one of the key things is big data analytics, apart from its functioning as prescriptive and also descriptive in helping planners and helping city dwellers, understanding about the issues that they are facing. I think we have so much. I mean, to be fair to the agenda itself, there's so much to be structured, so much to manage about big data analytics. So there are still issues for people like us here today to discuss and share our experiences regarding big data analytics. Without delaying these interesting discussions that we're going to have today, I would like to firstly invite my first panelist. We have 4 panelists today, but for the first round, I would like to invite our Yang Berusaha TPR Dr Shamsaini binti Shamsuddin over a topic of sharing of your initiatives regarding your big data analytics by your organization. So Dr Shamsaini is the Deputy Director General of PLANMalaysia, and now she has served as Director of PLANMalaysia for Selangor and Johor and many strategy divisions at PLANMalaysia. Her expertise and research focus are in development economics, spatial analysis, and geographical information system. She is the pivotal for development of PLANMalaysia key projects like iPlanning and MoniNet. So over to you, TPR. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator, Dr. Siti Mohazza from MHLG, and the fellow panelists there. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Just now the Madam Moderator has already introduced me, but I just like to recap again. I'm Dr. Shamsaini, Deputy Director General of the Federal Department of Town and Country Planning, which is known as PLANMalaysia. We are a department under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government Malaysia. And as we know, urban planning services is listed under the concurrence list 3 of 9th schedule of the Federal Constitution, whereby our roles and functions are played at the federal and state level. We give advices on planning matters related to the use and development of land in the country and in the state. The DG of the department is the secretary to the National Physical Planning Council, that is the NPPC or in Malay MPSN, and we are also formulating National Physical Plan, National Urbanization Policy, and National Rural Physical Plan Policy. Other planning mechanisms that we prepared and formulated include the state and local plans, and also planning policy guidelines and standards. Apart from that, we also prepare special plans and all, and when and if they are required by local authorities or different parties. These functions played by us are all stipulated under the Town and Country Planning Act 1976, or it's called Act 172. Under Section 2B, bracket 1 of the Act also, there is a provision that the DG or the Director General of PLANMalaysia is to conduct, promote, and coordinate research in relation to any aspect of town and country planning. And he is also responsible to publish reports, bulletins, statistics, monographs, and other publications relating to town and country planning and its methodology. So in relation to this, we in the department has conducted a study, a framework study on the establishment of the Malaysian Urban Observatory, or it's known in short MUO, in the year 2018. And the study has been completed in 2019, and we are now mobilizing our resources to develop the MUO based on the MUO framework, which has been finalized. The initiative to establish the MUO also originated from the strategy underlined in the third National Physical Plan, which states that the establishment of MUO is to be done as a database center which employs the integrated smart information system to support decision making on urban planning services and sustainable development. MUO is seen as a smart urban data information sharing system or as a platform. It will be a database center which shall integrate interagency urban and rural data information. MUO shall also contain various modules which integrates data horizontally, that means it cut across agencies at the same level, federal level or the state level, and vertically across various levels of local authority, and then goes to state authority and also at the federal level. Okay, so with MUO, we are able to track and monitor progress on land development, conduct urban analytics for trends in transportation, land use changes, urbanization, and social demographic relations for future scenarios in urban development as well. And apart from that, it shall display urban development information apps. Okay, it shall also gain reporting on the sustainability level of cities through the integration with MUMINEX, and also we also integrate with the iPlan, the internal systems that we have. And the MUO will also incorporate smart city platform as a module in it. Okay, and what are the objectives of MUO? The objective of MUO is to make sure that MUO will be a focal point for the collection, updating, analysis, management, and dissemination of data and information to improve knowledge on sustainable urban and rural areas development. Okay, and number two is it is meant to develop an information exchange and capacity building network. At the same time, it tries to establish monitoring systems to support sustainable local urban management and planning process, including smart city initiatives. And it is intended to strengthen the local capacity in the development and use of urban indicators in data collection and also in monitoring process. At the same time, it will provide technical services, including data analytics, that builds for policy implementation at local levels. And it will also will be the main reference point for stakeholders in policy and decision making, and it will also do the reporting on status of the urban sustainability in Malaysia. So there are altogether five main modules that will be put at the dashboard in the MUO system or the platform. Number one is the sustainable urbanization reporting and monitoring. That is to achieve, the reporting will be to report on the sustainability of cities, which will include two main segments. Number one is the international agenda reporting on SDGs and NUA.
Dr. Shini, I'm afraid that you have 1 minute left. Please conclude your first round.
Okay, actually we have 5 main modules. One is about that sustainable urbanization reporting and monitoring. Number 2 is about the data ledger gallery. Number 3, the research and the development component. And the 4th one is on decision support system. And the last one on national smart city platform. So that's my first round of presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shamsaini, for being very precise, yet very insightful on your organization and the initiatives that you have. As of current, I would like to inform that there are already like 50 above number of people who are joining us. And I hope that this session will be of a good sharing session with them. As you all know that PLANMalaysia, as mentioned by Dr. Shamsaini, is an important player in the National Planner for Land and Spatial Matters. agencies stand to guide the federal, state, and local government to actually get plans implemented accordingly. So, without further ado, I believe that our next panelist will also sharing on the organization's experience regarding urban management and big data analytics. I would like to call our distinguished Encik Muhammad Musabri Shahrum, a computer science major with a wide knowledge and experience in managing information system and ICT infrastructure. And currently he's responsible as Smart City Division Director of Perbadanan Putrajaya, and has been with PPJ since 2004 with some experience working with System Development Project Agency and UTM. Over to you, Encik Muhammad Musabri.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Siti. First of all, I would like to talk about, to tell something about the Perbadanan Putrajaya. Perbadanan Putrajaya was established under the Perbadanan Putrajaya 1995 Act 536 for the purpose of managing and administering the city of Putrajaya, the Federal Government Administrative Center of Malaysia. Perbadanan Putrajaya is also entrusted with the function of a local authority and local planning authority by various orders and notifications. Now I would like to move on to our big data initiative. Basically, for Perbadanan Putrajaya, the overall strategy for big data initiative, actually we put data sharing basically is a must in any of our Smart Putrajaya initiative. So currently, based on our Smart Putrajaya blueprint, we have about 93 initiatives. So actually, we have put a policy where all these initiatives must use data sharing as one of the features that need to be implemented. So basically, there's three types of smart city implementation in Putrajaya. So first is actually we do design and build for PPJ by PPJ. At design stage, we already put requirement to have the integration module to be in using API, XML, and also JSON and so on. And then we also have state a requirement where it must have a clear documentations on how to grab the data in the operation manual. So that is the first type of our project implementation regarding smart cities. And if let's say if you go for off-the-shelf product, so basically when we choose a product from the market, so it must also, we need to consider and it must have integration capability with less complexity. So same thing, the product must have the features of using API, JSON, XML, and so on to perform integration so that we can grab the data from the specific applications. It should have also a standard integration method with clear guidelines so that it's easy for us to do the integration in order for us to get the data. Okay, then the third one is actually we use a collaboration method where actually we have quite a number of smart city projects via collaboration with private sector. So normally when we do collaboration agreement, actually we require of both parties to perform data sharing. So during the discussion, we will identify what type of data that actually they can give to Perbadanan and what type of data that Perbadanan can give to them. So these are the three some sort of strategy that we use in implementing smart city initiative to make sure that we can go towards big data. So basically among the initiative that we have currently completed, basically have done it, is among of it is actually related to environmental sensor. So in Putrajaya itself, we already installed quite a number of environmental sensor related to hydrology, water quality. So all these sensor actually is an IoT center. Actually will send the data by real time to our centralized database. And also, we also have smart metering where we actually work with the utility companies like TNB, Selangor, where actually they can also share the data to us. Other than that, we have safety and security using our CCTV panic button which also have the intelligent video analytic features. We also have event ticketing, where when we have any event in Putrajaya, what we actually can do is we capture all the information, the age of the people who came to the event, the gender, where are they from. So with all this information, we can do a better planning for future event and so on. Okay, at the same time, we also have public health data. So recently, we also have we have built a public health desktop related to COVID-19, and we're also going to build another public health for dengue. So basically, we can take all this data, I can make use actually for better plan the city and do some analytic and also some future enhancement and so on. And at the same time, related to online services, actually our IT department have come up quite a number of online services solutions. So with this implementation also, we also perform data sharing where the API actually is sent to a centralized database where we can grab and then we can manipulate the data to actually give us some reporting and so on. Other than that, we also have collaboration with telco in terms related of telecommunication information. We also have social media. We grab data from social media as well. And another planning that we plan to do is actually next we're going to do a parking API, things related to economic data in the city, infrastructure data, and ultimately actually we would like to have the Putrajaya Urban Observatory, which currently we are working closely with PLANMalaysia.
Encik Musabri, you have 1 minute left.
Okay, all right, sure. So basically, overall of the data, the way that we want to capture the data and to make it a big data analytic, now we are really seriously looking into IoT implementation in the city. So with this IoT implementation, basically we can generate a huge amount of data that can be used for the Putrajaya Urban Observatory, where we actually can do predictive analytic. Then when decision maker, especially our management, want to make any decision, they can get the actual data, what is really happening in the city, and also they can do some prediction. What will happen if this action is not being taken care? What will happen in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? So this is the way that we actually currently try to build our big data analytic, so that it can help us to better plan the city, better manage the city. I think that's all from me, Dr. Siti Waya. Hope the sharing will be useful for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Encik Musabri. That is very, very insightful. In a way, when we talk about big data analytics, we are also talking about the management of it, the collection part. And I think Encik Musabri has given some kind of a guideline telling that having big data analytics is just not it, but strategizing, having all things there well arranged with guidelines, proper understanding by those who are actually running them is very vital. And no wonder I think Putrajaya has been awarded as one of the 5 sustainable cities yesterday in our launching of our MUF9. Congratulations. And with that, I think I would like to go to my third panelist, and he is Encik Zamri Ibrahim. I would like to also give a little bit of his background. He is the Vertical Director for the Real Asset Solutions at TM1 Telecom Malaysia Berhad, a company that is focusing on becoming the market leader in smart real asset and smart city services in Malaysia. Passing this floor to you, Encik Zamri, for you to share whatever experience that you have. I'm sure all those who are listening to us now is waiting for you. Over to you, Encik Zamri.
Okay, terima kasih, Doktor. Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. A quick introduction about TM1. TM1 is the enterprise services arm of Telecom Malaysia. So as a business, we serve the government sector, government agencies, ministries, TPJ macam Encik Musabri, as well as the public enterprises, private companies and corporations. Okay, coming back to our topic for today about data, big data analytics for effective urban management. TM sees ourselves as an enabler of Digital Malaysia. And when we talk about Digital Malaysia, when everything goes digital, we look at the entire ecosystem. Historically, of course, people look at Telecom Malaysia as our, your internet provider. But when we look at in an urban setting, we have gone into providing services, smart city services. And I like to share the story of big data through the provision of smart services. I'll just give you a few examples. Yeah? One of the areas that we've been doing for quite a while is CCTV monitoring. We work with a lot of local councils. We work with private companies as well, property developers, in helping them to manage their security surveillance. Now, the ecosystem of providing such a service includes the devices itself. So all the CCTVs that are located along the streets, along the perimeter of this housing development. We also support this with our contact center that handles the hotline in cases of emergency. Who do you call? Not Ghostbuster, but you'll be calling us and our operators at our call center. Now, that's number two. Number three, all of this information, monitoring of our services is done in our command center, or we call them IOC. Looks like Encik Musabri is sitting in an IOC right now, so it probably looks like that. We have lots of screen and we have a lot of information coming from all the devices that we place. I'm using CCTV as a reference, but we do other things as well. Now, this is when it gets interesting and hectic and maybe sexy, where you collect all of this data from all the devices that you have, and you start to analyze them. And depending on the services, in the example of CCTV, it will tell the guards at the location that everything is okay. They can go about doing whatever they were doing, or it will alert them of an incident, whether it's an intrusion, whether one of my favorite cases in one of our housing projects in Johor, a naughty kid running away from his parents near one of the fencing. So it alerts the guards to a possibility of a kidnapping incident. Okay, so the devices collects the data, the system, the platform at the command center interprets the data and sends the information to the guards in this case, and alerts them of what they were supposed to do, and certain actions are taken. Similarly, we have visitor management control in buildings and housing areas, where we collect data about cars that comes by, who are visiting. With this information, we're able to collate and provide a dashboard to the resident association. Who comes the most in a week? Why is he coming here? We don't know why he comes, but we know he comes a lot. Is he a registered contractor or not? So we are now able to do things that we are not able to do previously. Information is available in an instance, and it makes the provision of the services a lot easier. In some cases, a lot more cost effective, and in most instances, we are able to provide more for the same amount of devices that we use. Again, I was using the example of CCTV surveillance, but the same applies when we provide traffic management. We provide smart retail, which is essentially a monitoring of your shoppers in your retail setting. Where they go, where do they congregate, how long do they spend in your shopping mall, and all of these data are then collected and provided as information to the user. In the case of a shopping mall, the mall operator can use the data to simply just count how many shoppers are there in the mall, or they can go deeper to how many of them are repeat visitors, how long do they spend time, how many of them are female, how many of them are male, So there are a lot more information that is available that can be provided as a service. So what TM has seen through the provision of our services, which we do on our own, as well as through our partners such as Cisco, is it's something that we do together. It's something that we are enabling now, and something that we can say now Malaysia is becoming more digital, creating a lot more data for everybody to see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is so sweet for being very precise and you're stopping at the right time. Thank you, Cik Zamri. It is all about an ecosystem of implementation where you have the people who set it or get it done, and then the people themselves, the city dwellers who gets the benefit and being taught or understand for the fact that dashboards means so much to them that they can do something for their own wish list or anything that of good to them, for the people. So data is also for the people, and I think Cik Zamri has shared quite a big scale of information and sharing. Thank you so much, Cik Zamri. I will get back to you later in the second round. So for the first round, we have our final panelist, and he is none other our Mr. Dalbir Singh, who is so synonym to Cisco, and he is an entrepreneurial technologist with years of proven strength in consultancy, strategy, innovation, and technology for digital transformation in government, real estate, and service provider vertical. So without further delay, Mr. Dalbir Singh, I pass the floor to you. Silakan.
Terima kasih Dr. Siti and salam sejahtera everyone, to the guests, to the esteemed panelist session. And being the last person, in fact, it's quite simple for me because I can just say I'm just going to do a simple copy and paste of whatever all the esteemed panelists have spoken. So when you look into smart cities or you look into urban planning, you look into big data, it's very important to understand what are the components that are involved. And if we could classify them, we could classify them into 4 different actors or players. The first one is people, right? You can't run away from the fact that cities do not have people in there. And the city should be designed for people, not for sensors, not for the IoT components, right? So people is the most important thing. Second is you look at things. These things can be in the form of like what Zamri mentioned, CCTV surveillance cameras. You're talking about environmental sensors. You're also looking into what are the different roadways that you have, infrastructure that you may have. You may have, real estate development. Those are in the category of things there. Then you look into the category of process, because process is very key. And I like what Musabri has mentioned, and what you have in Putrajaya is really excellent because you have defined that process. That process is key, and it's key because of what Zamri said, ecosystem, and what Dr. Siti said, ecosystem. There are 1,001 different players out there with good solutions. Now, what do you do with those solutions? You can't just simply bring them on board. There must be a well-defined process, a framework that is articulated so that you can simply bring in additional components, or you could remove components that are no longer required, which would ensure that the city is resilient and sustainable. Finally, the fourth part, which is the topic for today, is data. Right? When you talk about data as a whole, it is very important to understand data does not equal to information. Information does not equal to value. The key is how do you harness this data into something that's going to be meaningful that will enable you to make informed decisions or planning. Now, based on that 4 main actors or 4 broad areas is where Cisco has come up with this Cisco Connected Communities infrastructure, which to simplify that whole thing is we've broken it up into 3 different layers. And for those who have not seen the Malaysian Smart City Framework, which was launched by KPKT last year during Smart Cities 4.0, I highly encourage you to look into that document because it touches onto these areas as well. So it is a very good reference, and in fact, a very good job done by KPKT for coming up with that framework, because that is required, right? So from that, you look at street layer. Where are all these things on the street layer? You move into a central infrastructure, you go into applications. Today, everyone wants to use an app. What happens is we have got a lot of different apps on our mobile phone and we get confused. Which one do we use? Now, when you are planning something from an urban observatory perspective or from a smart city perspective, you also need to look into the ease of use for your citizens, the ease of use for your operators like Musabri and his team that is really managing Putrajaya. So all of that needs to be considered. Now, what we have seen in the next slide now is because we had this framework and because we have got more than 40 plus different cities out there that is using this framework, that is using this approach and methodology, when we were hit by COVID-19, they were easily able to modify the components that they were monitoring from a smart city command and center perspective to start to look at it from a COVID-19 management platform. Now, what was happening is because they were getting a lot of these different inputs, like Musabri was saying earlier, you can get data that's coming in from a healthcare provider, you can get data that's coming in from the airport, number of people that are landing, which other countries, you can look at hospitals, number of beds that are available, number of disposables that you would have in terms of your facial mask and so forth. All of this data can also be streamlined back onto this same platform. So that's why it's very important to ensure that that platform is open, to the point that Musabri has mentioned earlier. Now, from this, we move into the final slide, which is something that is really important today, is we are talking about a resilient distributed infrastructure. How do you ensure that we are able to embrace this new normal to prepare for any future shocks? Now, how is this tied back to urban observatory? An urban observatory would also have people. They would also have employees. Now, how do you ensure that they are able to work remotely? How do we ensure that different devices could still be connected remotely? How do we get assessment?
Mr. Dalber, I have half a minute.
Sure.
Reminder.
So in that essence, if you look at it, is whatever that we plan for, we have to really look at it from a sustainability point of view. From a sustainability, how do you scale it? How do you tie it back, not just to business continuity, but business continuity execution? How do you execute? With that, back to you, Dr. Siti.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dalber. It's big data analytics is nothing but until and unless it brings benefit to the people, and how you do about it and how you make the life of the people easier. So, and at the end of the day, it's about sustainability of everything that we plan to be given or, delivered to the community in the cities especially. So here we are now. We are at the round 2. I can say we are getting deeper into the topic of big data analytics and how it can contribute to city management or urban management. So without further ado, I would like to call upon Town Planner Dr Shamsaini to tell us about the key challenges Plan Malaysia has, or perhaps any setups that you have come across and bumped into some hiccups, and what are the suggestions that you have put up in order to make things planned, implemented nicely. Dipersilakan TPR.
Thank you, Dr. Siti. Okay, the first challenge that we're going to face, we anticipate to face in the future in establishing the MUO is, number one, is to create a common goal and understanding among all stakeholders of the MUO itself. If people have different understanding of the goals and the understanding of MUO, it will not be realized. And then also we must have the sense of belonging to the MUO. MUO, even though it was developed by Plan Malaysia, but it should be owner or belongs, the ownership of it should not be only rest with Plan Malaysia. The stakeholders, say for example, like MAPU, the co-owner, MHLZ themselves, and JOSM, and all other agencies need to see MUO as their project as well, because they are the contributors of data and contributors of any other elements to the realizing of MUO. Okay. Number 3 is about the data sharing. The data sharing involves confidentiality of information. So how to solve this? So we need to have control access by establishing MUO, not MOU, MOU. Okay. Memorandum of Understanding, and also to have agreement, NDA, between agencies, so that we will know what kind of data can be accessible to the public, and certain data may be very confidential, not to be accessed by anybody at any time, any place, okay? And number 4 is about the sustainability and continuity of the MUO project. Now it is being initiated by the government. But in the future, maybe if it's getting more rampant, the technology is getting progressing more rampantly, we may need to have some experts out there to form a kind of public-private partnership to ensure the continuity and sustainability of the MUO. And number three, besides that, is about the data updating continuity. Okay, we must establish a kind of systematic approach in order to ensure that this approach can help us to ensure that data are coming from time to time and always be updated, and it's always a real time and not lagging all the while. Okay, and also about the dynamism of the technology. We know technology is moving very fast, but how are we to keep up with this? Whatever it is, the most important thing is not about the technology alone. It's about the data that we are going to put to share with. The data should have some form of integrity, some form of openness, and also it must be valid and be verified by different parties, so that the information that we get from there, that we manipulate or we do analytics, will come up with some information that can really support our decision making to realize our mission and vision of the country. Okay, and the next one is about data integration and also open data. The formats are different, especially the special data. They are not structured, and then we have to ensure that the formats of the data can be easily or seamlessly integrated, so that we can do some form of analytics to come up with some solutions. Okay, and last but not the last one, we are looking forward actually for us to link the MUO with the local level and the state level UO urban observatory by different levels. The local authority, they will develop their own urban observatory, the state level, the regional. So we are looking forward how to link this to the federal level. And we have to build our capacity. The people are always moving, so we need to establish some form of smart, subject matter experts. The subject matter experts should be given some form of, form of incentives to ensure that they'll be there and they will keep on maintaining and monitoring the system that we are going to develop. And the last but not least, is most important, is about the leadership and the political will. That's it, Dr. Siti.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet, immediate, very, very important for us to know what PLANMalaysia has been doing, and it is a serious effort from the government, I believe, and I know that is what we have been fighting for. Next, for the second round, I would want to call upon Encik Musabri again for sharing of your key challenges and how you go about dealing with them. Dipersilakan, Encik Musabri.
Okay, I will share some of our experience. Actually, I have a list of challenges that we have during the implementation of big data and how do we collect all this information. So basically, of course, the first challenge that I put normally is related to budget. Because when you want to implement a big data, you require quite a number of budget. So it's something that because in order for you to have a big data, you need all the hardware, you need the software, and also the technical expertise, the developer, to come up with the solutions, to develop the solutions. So basically, for this one, that's why we really like to work in collaboration, so that maybe with this collaboration we can share the cost, or maybe something like, for example, that's why we actually try to with Malaysia Urban Observatory, basically, so that we can offer be one of the first or one of the most complete local urban observatory, so that we can connect to Malaysia Urban Observatory, and basically we can make use the same platform, or maybe the same engine, or maybe the same cost. That's a possibility that we actually can work together with to minimize the cost. If let's say everyone is spending each time they want to do the big data analytics at their locations. So that is one of the challenges. The other one is the things related to regulatory issues. So basically, we have one experience during the COVID-19, where actually in Putrajaya we developed the public health related to COVID-19. So when we discuss with MOH and how Perbadanan can get the data, so that we can help you to manage the disease and all the cleaning process, everything in the city. So throughout the discussion, actually, they are very particular on the data related to patients. So means that there's no way actually they can share data related to the details of the patient who actually get the virus. So how actually we work, actually we come up with the solutions where actually we don't need the private data in terms of the details. Something of like a locations, the case number, everything, so that when they refer the case number, they can the MOH actually can refer back the detail of the person who actually get the virus. So in terms of regulatory issues, actually it's something that actually can be solved via collaborations, and actually we can still work to actually really separate between what information that we can get and what information we cannot get, and maybe after that we can actually streamline by both parties. Other than that, we also have to make sure in terms of infrastructure readiness as well. So in terms of IT infrastructure, we also have to consider of, let's say, to be prepared for the big data analytic at our locations. And also we have to look into digital security. Some organization, when they want to collaborate with us, they are very keen of later we will actually expose the data to other people and so on. So these are the things that we need to discuss with the partners. And actually there's quite a number of solutions out there to actually to secure, to make sure the data transition, the data transmission between the agencies are secure. Maybe something like the use of blockchain, that kind of method. So and other than that, of course, we have to make sure that when we design, whether it's a Putrajaya Urban Observatory or local observatory or Malaysia Urban Observatory, we have to make sure that we can come up with this implementation, which it can be sustained, it can be maintained. So these are the things that we need to take care of during the implementation of big data. And another things that become a challenge to us actually to get a data scientist, because when you talk about predictive analytics, especially predictive analytics, for you to know based on this data that you have what will happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, for sure you need a data scientist. So this is really something new to us, that we really need to identify for this type of analytic, what type of data scientists that we need. So these are among the challenges that we face during our implementation here. But I think everyone can work together so that we can share information, and also we can maybe we can together find people to actually to develop the data scientists locally, so that it can be implemented. I think that's all from me regarding sharing of the challenges for the implementation of big data. Okay.
Thank you so much, Encik Musabri. I would like to call upon Encik Zamri Ibrahim for your second round of sharing about the key challenges by your company, and perhaps some sharings also on how you deal with it.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Now, just like what Encik Musabri mentioned tadi, we are moving into new grounds as we go digital, as we start to provide smart services. So maybe I'll just start by saying when TM1 went into smart services, smart cities, we were looking at it from our role as a digital enabler. So we said, okay, for cities to be smart, they have to be connected. How do we improve infrastructure? For cities to have ears and eyes, they need devices that can also be connected, whether through Wi-Fi, what other ways of connecting them. How do we create this? Number three, when services are rolled out, ideally it can be viewed, it can be monitored from everywhere. So we start to talk about cloud. How do you cloudify everything so that it can be accessible? So as we move into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, we encounter what I would say growing pains. And I've listed these growing pains. I think we have about 5 growing pains that I've listed, and I'll just go through them one by one. Number one is an appreciation of value. We do not have a uniform appreciation of the value of data. Yeah. If we're talking about Levi's jeans versus what Dalbe wears all the time, Prada jeans, we know, Prada will cost more, Zamri wears Levi's. But when we talk about data, data about traffic versus data about, people's movement in a shopping mall, what's the difference? How do you value this? How much ringgit per pound, per kilo? We don't have an appreciation for value, and that makes it difficult for us to communicate, difficult for us to scale things. So that's number one, an appreciation of value, which makes everybody speaks in different languages on the same thing, and it's difficult. That's number one. Number two, we do not have a full understanding of the potential of a service. I'll give you another example. Maybe I'll just use Dalbe's favorite example, shopping. Again, we can, I'm sorry, Dalbe, I've not met you for such a long time. We can track Dalbe's movement in KLCC every time he comes. We can, so we can track his attendance. He was in KLCC 3 times a month. So that's maybe worth 30 cents. But if we can track also, which we could, his movement in KLCC, which floor does he spend the most of his time, then it's worth maybe 3 ringgit. And then when we can track where he spends his money in all the levels of KLCC, maybe it's worth 30 ringgit, because the specific retailer in the mall, can make use of that information. However, many a times, when we approach and we talk to mall operators, they say, we just need to know numbers of people in here. We just need to know numbers of people. Actually, we can give you, where Dalbe goes, what he wore today. No. We just need the first one. But this, so when you are not able to.
Sorry, I'm afraid that you have only 1 minute left.
Okay, no more Dalbe, sorry. Okay. Okay. Number 3, it's about the sharing of information. We are collecting information. We want you to collect and put your information in the clouds, hopefully in our clouds. But it will not go anywhere if there's an unwillingness to share, to understand that maybe I'll use half of this data. The other half has a lot of use for Encik Musabri and Encik Dalbe. And I will allow them to use that, with certain parameters. But currently, there is no such sharing of data. This data is mine. You go and look for your own data, and hence we get a lot of duplication and a lot of wastage in storage space, even because data are not being shared, because maybe you're worried that it's not secured, although the cloud is secured, and so forth. So that's what we need to do to ensure that we can share and be secured in the knowledge that the data is secured. Thank you very much.
Encik Zamri. Finally, I would go to Encik Dalbir Singh. Mr. Dalbir here today is, he's going to do the last panel session with us. I would like to call Encik Dalbir to share your challenges and solutions to it that you can offer to the listeners. Dipersilakan.
Sure. Terima kasih again, Dr. Siti. And for the audience, if you're wondering why Zamri keeps on using me as an example, we've known each other for 12 years. So 12 years is a long duration. And just a tip for you, whatever Zamri says about me is actually him. So Zamri wears Prada, Zamri goes to KLCC 3 times a day. Now, so jokes aside here, right? And I'm very thankful to be part of this panel session because we all know each other. So, essentially we've all met each other. We've worked in this field of smart cities. So for the benefit of the audience, I'm going to use back the 4 main actors I mentioned in the first part. People, process, things, data. From a data perspective, I like what Doctor had also mentioned earlier on, that data from a privacy and confidentiality perspective is really key. What it means, tying it back to PDPA, tying it back to EU GDPR, and other standards that may be there. Now, one other important factor, which is a huge challenge from the projects that we've seen happening, is the integrity of the data. Because garbage in means garbage out. You need to really make sure you are not just connecting everything, you are not just collecting everything, you need to make sure that the data has been sanitized and the data is accurate to a certain level or have an understanding of the probability of the accuracy of the data. Now, that's on data. Confidentiality, privacy, security. We move on into things. Things over here, the biggest challenge over there is interoperability. Why is interoperability a big challenge? Is because today's cities are both brownfield and greenfield. You have legacy systems, you've got new systems, you've got upcoming systems in place. So you really need to make sure they are able to speak and communicate with one another, to the point that Musabri shared earlier on APIs. How do you ensure they can speak and communicate with one another? Then you move on into processes. Processes is extremely key. Today, some organizations are more advanced. They have documented all the SOP. Now, digital transformation, you can't afford to have those documented in books that people no longer access. You need to make sure those processes can be automated and embedded into the systems and platforms that you are utilizing. So how do you ensure that you are able to bring all of this together in a seamless way, where you will be able to guide users? What are the steps? 1, 2, 3. How do you do an escalation? How do you mitigate? And the key part to any operation center or any control center is time to response. How do you reduce that time in order for you to respond? Finally, you talk about people. People is very key, because today this is also a bigger challenge, not just from a technology point of view, is because how organizations are structured. Some department don't want to share information to the other department. But they takut. They say, oh no, it's not relevant for you. I don't want to share that information over to you. Now, if you go beyond different departments, different organizations, different telcos, there's a question for you, Zami, from Ellen, by the way, on chat. So what you really need to look is, how do you ensure that there is still this process in place where people can share data and have the assurance that the data would not be manipulated. The data is only going to be utilized by those who are authorized. The second biggest challenge with regards to people is change management. So whatever project that you implement, please look into change management. You need to create this user awareness that things are going to be different as you start to smarterize, untuk mempintarkan, right? Or to update. You need to make sure your end users know how to use it, why they need to do it in that way. Otherwise, it may potentially become a white elephant project. People would not want to utilize it. All right, back to you, Dr. Siti.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dabber. That's very good. Round up for panelist session before I actually round it up. We have a question here. Just for your information, we have hit about 70 people with us just now. So that's, to me, is a big number and interesting. We have given some sharings and also some directions. Perhaps all the local governments who are with us today may have learned some thoughts that we have through just now. So we have a question from Alan Wong Sabah about Malaysia Telco. I think Dalby, we have a little bit mentioned about his question, but I'm not sure whether you're actually answering him. But directly what he wants is to see the willingness of Malaysia Telco companies sharing their data through mobile phones usage, such as on transport and traffic, passengers waiting time at bus stop, blah, blah, blah. So perhaps I pass this to Encik Musabri.
Okay, I think regarding the telco data, normally when we talk about telco data, of course, we need to go through via MCMC. Normally, we don't go directly to the telco and actually request data from them. So it has to go, I think, into certain security features, and also some agreement need to be done via MCMC in order for us to get the telco data. I know that actually telco, from telco information, we can have all the information that has been described here by Mr. Alan Wong, where actually we can see the people movement and all about the travel, everything, and delay, everything is about the density of the people. But I think it's something that we can work in the near future, actually to actually discuss further this idea about getting the data from telco together with MCMC. I think, if not mistaken, for the MySejahtera also, if not mistaken, they are also using some technology related to getting data from telecommunication company in order for us to control the virus from spreading to other place. Yeah.
Perhaps, Azman, do you have about 1 minute to a little bit explain about telco in sharing data?
But make sure he doesn't use Dalbear as an example, Zamri.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. I think Dalbear explained very well. Thank you about the legislation behind it, the authority behind it. As telco, we have information about we have to serve our customers. Jadi the information is in the system about the location of each telephone, because it's being served by in our system. However, the usage of that information, can it be used? I think it can. Technically, I've seen in Taiwan where they use traffic management. They have a traffic management system based on telco or mobile phone monitoring to determine movement, how many are going. So they anonymize the data so that you don't know who it is. It's not Dalbe, but there's a phone that's moving on the road. So technically it can be done, but just like Encik Sabri sebut tadi, legislation has to be in place to allow for that. People tracking is something that's sensitive. 2-3 years ago, nobody would want to do it. But now with MySejahtera, everybody is for it. So, I'm sure given time, these are things that can be done, with the right legislation. Thank you.
So much, Zamri. Now we have come to an end for this session today. It has been very interesting and to be with all of the panelists, and I'm sure that the listeners are still with us now. I just would like to a little bit wrap up with some words, some important keywords here: people, collaboration, one platform, sustainability, regulatory issue that needs to be managed, change management. Among the keywords that are important under big data, analytics and urban management issue. So thank you so much. I really appreciate and have good times with all of you. Thank you again to all the panelists, listeners, and to the technical team. We hope to see you again in another platform about big data analytics. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I didn't say assalamualaikum, but it's okay.
Just in time. Okay.
Oh, perfect.